Welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors. It is Monday night, so Dr. Maya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Maya, always trying to keep it 100 for the community. I'm honored to be here with my colleagues. Y'all know it's just cold out there, right? But today was better than yesterday. So thankful for places where people can go to keep warm. And we'll have some tips about that later on in the program. Right now, I want to popcorn it over to. I'm not Nikki, so I don't have the flowery decor. I don't. I know you don't. She threatened to be here, but she show up on time. That's what I know. Dr. Miller.
Oh, good evening, everybody, and just want to thank Congressman Davis and Nikki for this platform and inviting us to participate. I'm a retired internist after practicing for 40 years in the community. Though I don't practice clinical medicine anymore, I'm still in the business of trying to heal the communities in the ways that I'm able to. So I'm glad to be here tonight and to participate and to see and provide whatever I can to help as well as to learn, because that always happens on this forum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Graham. You all know when I got on here, we show up a little before so that we can kind of get ourselves together. Sometimes I have tech issues, to avoid that I show up. And when I got on here and I was backstage, one of the doctors was talking about I shoveled enough snow, I put down enough salt in my life. I don't have you. I was like, what? Because I'm still waiting on that invite. I think it's been 3 years now. Okay. All right, somebody who's not experiencing the cold. Dr. Graham.
That's right, Nikki. I think I can honestly say that I've paid my dues in the cold. I'm now where it's warm. Like Dr. Miller, I'm a retired physician. I worked for 30 years in the western suburbs and then went to Washington, D.C. to join the congressman in his office. It really opened my eyes to public health and to the community needs. It's a real honor to be here, and I'm going to try and answer your questions as best I can.
All right. No, I'm not jealous. I don't even know why you think I am. I don't know. I've never said that. And so I'm not jealous at all. Well, this brings us to Congressman Danny Davis. You all, every time I got a chance to say this, I would say it. I went. What I appreciate about you, Congressman Davis, is like almost every step. I'm a public health person. I'm a product of not only CHAMPS, but also the urban health program. I was a school teacher, and when we look at social determinants of health and how policy and our elected officials can impact that. And I will say, and none of these points did I ever know you, but then looking back, mile square, everything, the legacy that I'm thankful for. I said I would say it every time I got the chance, and I had the chance today. Thank you for not only that, but creating this during COVID when community needed a way to connect and get information. Congressman Danny Davis.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. 100, for saying that. But life is so wonderful, even when people leave. A friend of mine, Dr. Bowers, Reverend Bowers, just passed away, and his funeral is going to be Saturday. And Friday, his wife called and said, my husband told me to make sure when he died, because we knew he was going to die, that I let you know, and to make sure you have a front seat. And of course, he was only 95. And I think I saw him at an event maybe a month ago. And he was still doing what he does. So the real deal is I've come in contact with so many wonderful, unbelievable outstanding individuals until trying to catalog them. Saturday, I was at McCormick Place, and this gentleman, Larry Huggins, put on an event. I mean, with thousands of children and their families were there. The governor, the lieutenant governor, people running for the Senate, bicycles, computers, just all kind of stuff. I couldn't imagine that many people at McCormick Place on a Saturday morning. We couldn't find hardly a place to park. We had to go up to the top of the garage, and it was not warm.
Nope.
It was cold. And we had to go up to the top level to find a place. And so, notwithstanding all of the trauma and other things that go on, the world is still a pretty interesting place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Notwithstanding the terrorism that took place in Australia, notwithstanding the hunger that exists in parts of the world where people can't get enough food to eat, and where malnourishment is a big issue and the order of the day. And yet we have grain rotting in fields in some places that people can't sell and can't get rid of or disposed of. And yet Christmas holiday comes along and people are planning all kind of events and Christmas parties and celebrations. I got more invitations than I'd ever be able to attend. And all that I can do is say thanks, but I can't make it because I'm going to be soon so, and all of that. So it's still a pretty wonderful place, and we still have need for medicine and doctors and nurses and all of what makes up the healthcare delivery system. So thanks to all of you practitioners for giving us the opportunity to keep talking about these things. Thank you all. It's not as cold in DC as it is in Chicago, but you know, there's enough cold to go around and it gets here just as well. So thank you all, and let's get it on.
I'm gonna send some of this cold to Florida, Dr. Graham, because I know you I know you miss it. I'm gonna send some. Well, speaking of cold, December 11th through December 15th, all over Cook County, there were dangerous wind chills listed. There were some, and I'll put it in the Facebook chat. The warming centers in the city of Chicago, Inglewood, North Area Center, Garfield Center, South Chicago Center, Martin Luther King Center, and the Trina Davia Center. In addition to that, libraries, places like that are warming centers from 9 to 5 and extended hours on the weekend. This is a time where you definitely want to check on your tribe. I know this past Saturday I was coming home from clinic. Well, first, a lot of my patients opted for virtual, right? Because they were just like, yeah, I thought I was going to make it. It's too cold. In addition to that, I was driving home and I called my mother and she was like, oh, you know, we have a rule in my family. You never go below half a tank of gas. And she was like, oh, I just hit less than half the tank. I got to go out. And I was like, I'm glad I called my mom to check on her. But also, since I was out, I was able to stop by, get her car, take it, fill it with gas, and bring it back to her. So she didn't have to go out, in this weather. So check on your tribe. If my mom is listening, not that you couldn't. I didn't say you couldn't go out in this weather. We just said we wanted to support you so you didn't have to. So check on your tribe. And so in severe weather, we just want to give some tips on how to stay safe and start off with tips on how to stay safe in severe weather. And definitely in Chicago, summer or winter, but definitely in winter, you have to layer up. So definitely you want several layers, a base, a mid, and an outer layer. That's what I always learn. My mom said, what you got on you got to have an underlayer, those thermals and things like that. And then the mid layer is kind of what you see I have on now. And then I have my outer layer. And that helps in a lot of ways. Yes, the layers help, but yes, each layer helps, but also the way they're staggered kind of block some of the cold, almost like you put windows on, plastic on your windows. It just puts another layer to block on every layer you get. You definitely want to cover your digits, your fingers, and your toes. Watching out, you don't want to get frostbite. So cover your fingers and your toes. And mittens are warmer than gloves. Why? Because the warmness of my fingers can feed off each other. When I have gloves, I'm kind of like we are. When we're isolated, we're better together than when we're isolated. So mittens, and when you talk about your extremities, are definitely better than gloves. But if you have gloves, that's a great idea. You want to stay as dry as you can, because once you get that moisture layer, the weather and the cold can get to that moisture layer and make cause your skin to actually lose heat with that. And then stay active, move around. I'm one of those people, when I get cold, I want to just stand. I'm more likely to just freeze and stand. And sometimes if I don't have my gloves on, I'd rather just sit there with no gloves and then run. But you definitely don't want to do that. Don't do what I do. Go ahead and keep yourself active, especially during the winter. It also helps during the winter when you're active with seasonal affective disorder, depression, things like that. So those are tips for keep your body heat up. And then I have some tips at home, but I want to give time for my colleagues. If you have any other tips for staying warm, keeping your body warm, and then I'll go into tips at home.
Okay, no, I think that you gave excellent tips in terms of what you should do to keep warm. I think the other thing is that use your head. So we figure out what it is that you have to do when it's cold and what you can avoid doing, because that has to do with being outside. When it's necessary to be outside, as Dr. Meyer says, make certain that you're covered with layers. But if you don't have to be outside, plan your day in such a way that you avoid that, because if you're not being exposed to the cold, then you don't have to deal with the trauma and the injury that can result from being cold. And also the exposure usually cause problem when you are in it for a certain period of time. So you can do it quickly and get back into a warm environment. That too helps to avoid frostbite injuries and those kinds of things. And the other part of the thing that a lot of folks don't think about, but if you happen to have heart conditions and those kinds of problems, the cold can cause your heart to can cause you to have angina. It can cause you to have problem with chest pain and those kinds of things that are related to the fact that the stress from the cold weather. So if you do have heart conditions, so make certain that you do avoid these extreme condition of cold, as well as in the summertime the heat, because they too can cause problem that you need not to have. You need to avoid.
Mm-hmm. And then you know what else I thought of after about keeping my body warm? This weekend we had an event. It was very cold. And I had on my hat, because you want to definitely, in weather like this, you keep your head covered. You keep your body covered, but your head, and your feet, you want to keep them covered because you lose a lot of those are areas where you have a lot of potential for temperature exchange. So you can lose a lot of heat that way. And then somebody said, why don't you put on a mask? And I said, now I'm a doctor. I'm 48 years old. Why don't you put on a mask? And I said, put on a mask. Why? They said it will warm you up. And I put on one of those COVID N95 masks, and instantly my body just warmed up, you know. And I remember the scarf from when I was a kid. I was one of those kids with a lot of Vaseline whose mother put the scarf on. And you could just see this part shining, and and then this part was like covered up, and I couldn't even see, and I had on like the snowsuit. But I remember that, and I don't recall connecting it to how warm my body's temperature was able to raise itself when I covered, which makes sense because air gets here, 1, 2, 3. Air gets there, and then I notice if I keep my neck uncovered, a lot of air gets there. So by keeping all that covered, you can actually warm yourself up. Also, okay. Anybody? Okay. So also we want to get into tips for staying at home. What happens? Block all drafts. I'm one of those people. Here's a tip. I'm one of those people with the little mail slot. And I would just sit there and be cold. My brother walked in one day and said, what are you doing? He take that mail slot, and it, just like my nose, just like my mouth, the same thing with my house, blocking the drafts in the doors, those little cracks in the doors, blocking the drafts in the windows. That's why plastic really works on windows. And blocking something like the mail slot was letting out so much heat, I didn't even realize it. So block those mail slots, but you got to make sure you got somewhere to get your mail. Right. And then something that I learned also was on sunny days, if you do have a window that's well, secure from drafts, on sunny days, actually opening the curtains and letting the sun get in, you can the sunlight will warm your space up. Warm bedding, then you definitely want to make sure you have sufficient heating. If you don't have sufficient heating, tips like calling 311, going to the warming centers, things like that will help. But you do need sufficient heating, especially during the nighttime, with the caveat, be very aware of plug-in heaters. When you leave, where you leave them, make sure you're turning them off when you leave the house, things like that. I know some people that say they leave it on when they leave the house because they want the house to be just as warm when they get. That's a no-no. A lot of fires are definitely caused by leaving those heaters plugged up. So you definitely want to do that. And then there's my favorite, hot chocolate. So for some of us, coffee, and then getting your hot meals. But whether you get a hot meal or not, keeping yourself eating does keep your body going, keeps your metabolism going, and then keeps you warm. Eating a balanced diet is definitely going to fuel your body to be warm. And then you want to drink plenty of fluid, even if it's cold. I was one of those people, I wouldn't drink water when it was, because, and I realized I just have to heat up my water a little bit and still drink it. I'd be like, no, it's too cold to drink water. And then you get dehydrated, and your body is not as efficient when you're dehydrated. So you're going to be actually colder, and so you want to get I like to heat my water up just a little bit. So when I drink it, I get that warm sensation. So soups, things like that, keeping your body well hydrated, well warm, those kind of things. Anything else from anybody?
I bet you was a great school teacher when you when you taught. What did you teach?
I taught. So my first year out, I actually graduated college when I was 20, right? So kind of young. And I had this idea to be a high school science teacher because I always loved science. Well, that didn't work out because my oldest student was 19 and I wasn't yet mature enough. So we would just be in there cracking jokes all day. I taught at Liberty Temple on 79th and Western. So after 1 year, I don't think that was one of them things where I just had to find something else, right? And then I taught at Carver Middle in Augill Gardens. And that was one of the most inspiring moments to work for those children, to support those children, really was important to me. There I taught 4th and 5th grade. And this is, I don't know if you remember this, you all, when they had a term in school called behavior disorder, which we know kids weren't behavior disorder. It was the system around them, right? And the responsibilities or lack of responsibilities we extended to them, and we never gave them a chance to move up for something, and then we called them behavior disorder, right? And then I did that for a while. And then my last year, I taught at Betty Shabazz Charter School because I started studying for the MCAT. Because I used to tell the kids, you can do whatever you want. And then one of the kids, they always get you. They said, you lying because you are doing whatever you want. When I asked you way back what you wanted to be when you grew up, you said you wanted to be a massage therapist and some kind of healer. And you didn't do that. You sit up here talking to me. So I'm gonna do whatever I want when you do whatever you want. And I told his name was Shemaiah, baby. He's not playing games with me. He said he got me that day, and I said, you know what, you right. He said, well, you go do whatever you want, and then I do whatever I want. And that's how I ended up being I am a massage therapist. That's how I ended up in I applied to med school that year. And so that was it. But it's such a Dr. Means teacher, so it's such a very pivotal part of kind of the journey, Yeah. And then seeing that those kids, I'm off the topic, but I'll get back on it. Seeing that those kids had the same lack of access to care that I had when I was younger. I was like, oh no, I gotta do something, a little something different. And so that sparked my interest in public health and things like that. But enough about me. Thank you all for listening to that. But it's such a joy to break things down and explain it. Because I think it puts it in our context. Not that we can't understand it. We can understand it in any context it's in, but I think I enjoy sharing the language of what I had to translate a lot of it to in order for myself to understand it. So now I say it how I understood it versus say it how it was written for a group of medical students, So, Hey, Nikki.
Right
okay.
on.
Nikki, I'm off. You know what? I was on the topic. Okay. So, December.
It's okay. I was texting you the questions that were coming in as they were coming. So check your text messages.
I'm out here flying. December is National Hand Washing Awareness Month. And I definitely wanted to take time to remind everybody, because during this time, you see how I got right on top. All you had to do was like show up on the thing, right? I got right back to the topic. Okay, Nikki. And
well, before we talk about hand washing month, Josephine Wade sent a question in, and you were talking about being cold. So Josephine Wade says, "Hi, I'm Mother Wade, and my question is, why do we get cramps, baby? Why does our body seem to get cramps in different areas, such as your back and your legs and your arm, and they increase when you get cold?" When you were talking about the coldness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what she wrote. And she said, baby.
Any other colleagues want to take that? I know I've talked a lot.
Well,
no? Oh, go ahead.
So I'll take a swing at that. And that is, when you're out in warm weather, the heat causes dilation of blood vessels, which causes some of the muscles in the skin to relax. When you're in the cold, everything tenses up. And even though you may not be consciously trying to restrict your movement, internally, many of your muscles don't want to move and want to preserve energy. And that's one of the things that causes some of the cramps that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, I'm just going to just add to it so that as people know, all the parts of your body requires oxygen, and so as Dr. Graham is talking about in terms of meeting the needs of your muscles, it need oxygen, so it need blood flow, and anything that affects it or cause a decrease in the blood flow can cause the muscles to react in that kind of a way. So when we have a constriction, which cold weather will make the blood vessel constrict, and so the blood flow is not as rapid as it is when it's warm. So that's the reason is decreased blood circulation to the muscles is what create the problem with the muscle cramping in cold weather.
Mm-hmm. And then, like Dr. Miller was saying, not only my hands, I can't see. So Dr. Graham was talking about your blood flow being able to flow here, getting enough oxygen that Dr. Miller was talking about, versus Dr. Graham saying here, when your vessels do that, your muscles also do that. So, and it's a reflex. Remember, I said when I'm cold and I did this, I just want to do like this. It's a reflex, number one, because your nerves also decrease their signaling, and when nerves decrease their signaling, meaning nerves aren't firing. As a matter of fact, think about how much you move around when it's summer versus how much you move around when it's winter, right? So it's an instinct. You're less likely to do it. Not only are your blood vessels constricting, but your muscles are also constricting. And then I said something else that I do that contributes to cramps. So my muscles tighten up. That's a cramp. But I don't want to drink as much.
Yeah.
Right. So if I don't want to drink as much, I don't want to eat healthy stuff as much, right? Then there's going to be dehydration. Number one, that causes cramps, but also loss of nutrients. If you're not, one of the reasons I was like, you got to eat a well-balanced, healthy meal to keep yourself warm is you don't have the calcium, you don't have the potassium, and then lack of calcium can cause it, number one, cramps, but lack of magnesium will also cause you to cramp up, right? So if you're not taking in those nutrients to be able to do it, on top of the body naturally wanting to do what Dr. Graham and Dr. Miller said, right? On top of your neurons firing a lot less, like I don't want to move around, they fire differently. Remember, because they also require the channels to open the doors, which are your calciums, your magnesiums, your sodiums, things like that. So less healthy intake, less fluid dehydration, and the body's natural desire to constrict is why you have cramps.
All right. Well, got to say hey to Angela Underwood, who is here. She says, good evening to everyone. Chief Valdemir Talley is here, and he says, good evening to everyone. Connie Taylor is here, and she says, good evening. Audrey J. Cox is here, and she says, good evening. Sister Bonnie says, Carver, my school. And she's here with us just as well. Nellie Parnell King is here, and she says, good evening just as well. Well, you talked about hand washing. December is National Hand Washing Month, along with a few other things, but let's really talk about that hand washing.
Okay.
Dr. Maya, take it away.
Oh, I don't know if one of my colleagues wants to start. Okay, so definitely one of the reasons why December is National Hand Washing Month, and it really should go all year, but definitely into January, February, those months. Any kind of flu or that kind of season is because we're moving around in less open spaces. So we're together. So it's easier for me to pass anything I might have, like the flu or, RSV, anything like that, to people, right? And a lot of them are respiratory pass, right? But a lot of them we get on our hands. We do things like hachu instead of hachu. We do things like that. We touch everything. People wipe their noses and they don't know it because a lot of times you get a runny nose. And if you have one of what I have, you see that line. You can't see it, but when I push it, you can see that line right there. It's called an allergic salute. So definitely I have allergies, but I also might have a little flu. 300 little viruses making up the common cold. Those type of things. When I touch and then I want to touch the doorknob and touch everything else, then and then you come behind me and you just open the door because you're trying to get in, it's easier for me to pass those germs. So that's why hand washing is important. And a lot of times people think I use a little soap, I use a little water, I'm good to go. But there's a mixture between what's in the soap or the cleanser and the amount of time it's on your hands. That's why they say sing the happy birthday song or whatever you want to sing for at least 20 seconds because it's a mixture between the cleanser and the amount of time that cleanser is on whatever it's trying to clean. And that's what actually gets your hands clean. Like me and Nikki always joke about, don't forget this little thumb down here because people be like, they be like this. And then they be like, I'm good to go. Don't forget this little part down here because guess what? When I grab that handle, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to put my thumb and all that stuff on it. So get down there. Hand washing is very important. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to.
No, I think you explained it pretty well. So I think that as we say, during December and January and February, those are what we, the flu season. So during that particular season, we tend to have more an increase in the amount of viruses and bacteria that we share. Not that we want to share it, but we do because we have it. We tend to share it more, and our hands happen to be one of the instrument for sharing that which is within us to someone else. And so it's important for us to wash it off of our hands. So I think that the important thing what Dr. Meyer is saying isn't don't just wet your hand, wash your hand. That's it. It's so important because a lot of time we talk to young people, especially children, about washing their hand. They just think that I put my hand under the water now, just give me the towel. But no, you have to wash it. You have to make certain that the germs that are there, be they virus or bacteria, that you get them off of your hands so that you don't spread them to other places that other people are going to touch.
So making sure you get a good lather when you're washing. If you're not getting a good lather, that means you need to rub it together some more. Well, we have a question that says, what's the difference between hand washing and the hand sanitizers?
So one of the differences is the alcohol that they contain. All the hand sanitizers have alcohol in them, and they have something else that may or may not kill viruses and bacteria. Commercially developed process. Soap is a little bit different, a different chemistry. It's probably better as a cleanser in terms of getting oils and grease and dirt off your hands. But both can be useful and effective. It really depends on the circumstances that you're in. And I just had this thought about sharing with people that the idea of hand washing really became an idea in surgery. That they had lots of trouble in terms of when they did their operations, there would be infections in the wounds, and they noticed that certain surgeons had more infections than others. And the only way that they could stop that is by washing your hands in between operations. So this isn't something that's whimsical, it isn't something that's personal, but this is something that's been observed and tried over time, over and over and over again. One of the best ways to stop the spread of infections is to wash your hands.
All right, well, outstanding. My dog has decided that he wants to be on, and they're telling you to go wash your hands. So go wash your paws, Platinum. Go wash your paws. This dog is hilarious. Well, COVID. Did our COVID numbers really go down when we washed our hands?
So that's a really good question. And part of the problem is
we're going to thank Patrick for that question because that was his question.
So if it really depends on who's collecting the data, what data they're collecting, how they're analyzing it, and how they're reporting it. Well, one answer I think I can give you is if you go into the supermarket, they're still offering you wipes to wipe down your shopping cart. If it wasn't effective, we wouldn't be seeing those wipes anymore. So understand that that is a virus that's spread by droplets. And this is one of the reasons why the hand sanitizers were helpful, because they contain alcohol and other things that can kill viruses. So if you just put your hands under water, that's one thing. If you use a solution that can kill the virus, that's another. All those white things that you get at the supermarket contains chemicals that are good against the viruses. And think about that. People go and they pick up the fruits, the vegetables, pick up the loaves of bread, they put it down, someone comes in and touches it. So it's a real good way to transmit virus from person to person when your hands aren't clean.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I just want to kind of address this because this is kind of a sore point for me. Everything that the CDC did to prevent the spread of infection was effective. What was not effective was dealing with the politics of this. And the reason that I can say that is if you go to communities that implement all the recommendations, they had the fewer incidents of hospitalizations and deaths. For those communities who didn't follow the recommendations, it was just the other way around. So we have real world evidence that those recommendations were valid. What we don't have is a way of dealing with the rhetoric and the diatribe that says that they didn't work. Vaccinations are safe and effective and have saved infinitely more lives than those that they have lost or injured.
Outstanding. Well, December is so famous for so many national key observations, from hand washing awareness to drunk and drug driving prevention to safe toys and gifts. We even talk about Universal Human Rights Month, World AIDS Awareness Month, so many different things. But we also have that when we talk about Universal Human Healthy Rights Month. So, Congressman, can you share about the new newsletter with us?
Well, the National Association of Health Centers is a pride and joy of many of us who got involved with public health in a big way during the 1970s. And of course, prior to that time, there was not as much interaction. There were not as many African Americans doing health. I can recall when I knew practically all of the Black hospital administrators in the country when a group formed itself called NACE, the National Association of Health Service Executives. And individuals started coming together, but much of this really got big jumps during the health rights period that came as a result of the war on poverty. And that is when the war on poverty really got to moving. Almost any community that you went into and did surveys and analysis, if there was poverty, there were also health disparities. If there was poverty, people were also sick. They were sicker than people in other communities and other places. So that was a good period. That health activism became far more pronounced than it had been, because people had basically thought of health as being just doctors and nurses and other technicians, other individuals who were scientists and who were trained in health delivery.
Mhm.
There had not been as much conversation about healthcare organization, healthcare development. And so people started showing up at meetings and discussions and conversations, and there was so much interest. I remember attending one meeting where the meeting lasted from 7 o'clock in the evening until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
There was still a room filled with people, and the hotel people put us out because there was going to be a breakfast meeting, and they had to put us out so they could fix the room up for breakfast. And so the level of interest just kind of mushroomed, and lots of things got moving that had been low profile, things that had not been started. And that's when the health center piece really got going. And of course now they have become an intricate part of primary care delivery. And even as modalities of treatment changed and people learned, and ultimately decisions would get made that if you could do the preventive and primary care, then you wouldn't need as many hospital beds. And you started to see the diminution of some of the great big, like Cook County Hospital used to have so many beds until I mean just a mammoth number. As changes have occurred and as they continue to occur, and as people become more aware of how they can help care for themselves,
Mm.
then if there's ever going to be a reduction in the cost of health and medicine, that's one of the ways. Prevention and early detection and early treatment, all of these things actually should combine to reduce the need for tertiary care or as much focus on the very expensive tertiary care that drive prices off the chart or the cost of things off the chart. So I've been a big fan of the health centers, and the association has decided to develop a newsletter, and they've done their first in Ohio. I believe it's Ohio. And they've invited us to do the second one. And so the second one, we're going to do it, and we're going to prepare in terms of the impact
Mm.
of the federally qualified health centers on a community of interest. And of course, that community is going to be the 7th Congressional District. So we're very pleased to have been invited to produce the second one of these. And so we're pretty excited about that because we like to call the district that we represent sort of a health mecca when it comes to facilities and services. I mean, we certainly don't have the cost of where cost ought to be, and people don't have the resources to pay for the treatment that is needed. And so this week, even here, we're going to have some health bills on the floor coming up the rest of the week, but it's going to be about the premiums that we've been talking about relative to the Affordable Care Act? And can we get to the point where those families whose income is such that obviously they would not qualify for Medicaid, or they're not senior citizens, so they wouldn't qualify for Medicare, but their income does not provide for them to be able to pay the high cost of insurance without some assistance. So we'll be talking about that on tomorrow and Wednesday. Hopefully, progress will get made. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't make that much this week. And then, of course, we'll be gone after this week until the new year. And we'll be back. And I suspect we will still be discussing whether or not we're going to have another shutdown come the end of the month, in all likelihood. Who knows? People's hearts sometimes change. Even the Grinch sometimes gets a little stuff at Christmas time, and Scrooge is not as Scrooge can be. But I think that's where we're going to be, and I think that's where we are. So I don't think we'll have a solution for Christmas. I wish that was it. And all I want for Christmas is a solution. But I don't think we'll have it, not by Christmas.
Wow. Oh, wonderful. Well, Henrietta Holmes is here and she says good evening as well. So is the Core Center. They are working, but they are saying hello. So they want everybody to know that they are here. And the guys in the garage. So this garage must be heated because you all are dedicated to watch it. So they are watching just as well. Well, we have a question from Melanie. Melanie asked the question to Dr. Maya. You know, Dr. Maya, you were talking earlier about staying warm and how to keep your bodies warm and how to layer. Well, she says during the winter months when you layer up, is it safe to wear multiple pairs of socks to keep your feet warm without the potential of your feet overheating and sweating? What is the best way to keep your feet warm and dry? Is it dangerous if your feet get wet? You're muted, Dr. Maya.
Where's the mute button? Hello? Okay, hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely you can wear multiple layers. Here's where there's a problem, right? You can wear layers that allow circulation. So if my foot is a size 10, I cannot put on socks that are meant for size 2, right? Because that's going to squish my feet. These are my toes. That'll squish my feet together, increase the likelihood that I'm going to sweat, decrease the likelihood the blood flow can get there, right? So you want to keep your circulation available so they can be not too tight. You got to wear, when I say loose fitting, your foot also shouldn't be doing like moving all around in it, but the appropriate level fitting sock, you know. For those immediately, I think about people who wear, may need those compress socks, like if you have any kind of swelling, things like that really tight sock. When you can, you take that off when you're indoors and you're warm and you let it breathe, right? But if you don't need to wear it, you wear a cotton sock, it'll be fine. And then it depends on too the way it fits your shoe, right? So you want to wear a loose fitting sock so your feet can move around, but air can't get in. Cotton is good. If it in really, really cold winter, like these past couple of days, I actually have 2 pair of socks that are made out of the thick wool, and I wear those. But when I wear those, I wear very light cotton under it because I just also happen to have eczema, and so I can't have wool directly on my skin because it flares up my eczema. So a thin steel cotton layer over it, under it, and then those. And then you don't want to wear so many. I've seen only one time by someone that wore so many socks that their shoe couldn't really fit in the shoe, and then the shoe then with all those socks created that compress. That's all I can kind of think of to give you that feedback. Is it, oh, I forgot. You said, is it good to get wet? No, your feet should not get wet because again, if you get your feet wet, when water, I can't think of the scientific term right now. It'll come to me. When water gets on the surface of anything, it allows a greater exchange of temperature. Water is a thermal conductor. So it allows a greater exchange of temperature across it. So if I'm 98.6 for my normal temperature and outside it's -2, then the water is going to allow for that exchange. That means my body has to lose heat in order to come to some kind of compromise with that cold, right? That's what water kind of does. And so that's why you don't want to get your feet wet during the, or any part of your body wet. Your feet and your fingers, definitely. If they get wet, go inside. Don't even stay outside because they're so vulnerable. Also, the tip of your nose and your ear.
So that must have been a hot button question because you got 2 questions right after that. So I'm gonna throw both of those questions out to our panel. One question says, I'm a woman of a certain age, so could my feet be getting hot because of menopause? That's a good question.
No, forget the panel. Yes, I'm 48. Yes.
Next question. Dr. Miller, why you laugh?
No, the whole body goes. It heats the body.
Right. Yeah.
Well, woman of a certain age, because that's how she posed her question. Woman of a certain age, if you having hot flashes, I will admit my hot flashes start in my feet and it's like a rush up my body. So yeah, then I start sweating. So yeah, if that's the case, yeah, that could be it. But don't take your clothes off or your shoes off when you outside in this cold. Just stay bundled up until you can get somewhere. Then take everything off. But don't take it off outside to get in the air. Don't do it. Don't even step outside when you're having a hot flash to get some air. Put your head in the freezer. Don't go out there. Don't go outside.
Yeah. One of the other things.
Go ahead, Dr.
One of the other things I wanted to mention in terms of especially your feet, because people that do have some conditions, let's say you're diabetic and you have a problem with the circulation, which means that you're more susceptible to the problem of the cold. That's number one. But also on the other side, Dr. Meyer was talking about making certain that you don't, if you put on extra pair of socks, make certain that you have room in the shoe for those socks, because what happens is that if you don't have enough room, and then you begin to that create a certain friction which can cause injury to the foot. And if you have a circulatory problem, then that become a bigger issue to resolve if you do injure your foot. So if you're going to put on some extra sock, well, put on a shoe that you have that's a little bit bigger, so that you don't rub the foot and cause the injury to the skin on your feet.
I actually wear bigger shoes in the wintertime so I can wear a ton of socks. So everybody talks about my crazy, ugly Uggs, but that's the whole purpose of the ugly Ugg. So I could put on a bunch of socks. Yeah. Our next question was from a gentleman who says, thank you, Dr. Maya and Dr. Miller and Dr. Graham, for all of the work that you do to help us along. I'm concerned about your feet becoming wet too. I'm a diabetic and I also suffer from something called hidradenitis, and my feet sweat a lot. What can I do? Oh, okay. He was cut and dry. What can he do? Mr. Ernest, thank you so much.
Yeah,
what can Mr. Ernest do?
Well, hydradenitis mean that his feet sweat a lot, and so he has again an increased tendency for damage to his feet, with that. And so, and the other thing that does occur is wet feet are hard to keep the temperature where you need to have it. In other words, if your feet are nice and warm, and let's we'll do it in a different way, and you happen to step out into a puddle of water, now you need to go back and change, because what happened is now you're not going to be able to get your feet comfortable, especially if you're outside in the cold, because the water is in the wetness of your socks are going to keep your foot cold. So you need to go back and redo that, as opposed to continuing on, which may cause another injury. And as he said, he's diabetic, so the other injury would be that you injured the skin on your feet, and now you have a wound there, a sore, and so that becomes a problem. That you have that's going to take additional health care and additional care in order to heal that up. So when you do have these kinds of conditions, be extra careful that you're aware what else is going on with your body, and that you are careful to make certain that you don't do the extra things or the things that will cause you to have extra care to keep your feet warm. Getting them wet is not it's going to contradict you having a warm feet when you're out in the cold.
Outstanding. Well, we have gotten a lot of feet questions since this question came up. I can't even keep up with what are the feet questions. So these are going to be our last two questions, and I promise that I will filter through the rest. And some of them we will post your answers, or maybe we need to bring on, have the doctors talk about feet and podiatry needs, or even bring on a podiatrist next, because I mean the feet questions are still coming in. I don't know if you guys can see this phone, but they're still coming in. Last two questions of the evening on our topic on this evening. One question, the young woman says, well, I have an iron deficiency and my feet and hands tend to get cold very quickly first. What can I do?
I think that really depends a lot on what's causing the iron deficiency. When you have the iron deficiency, you won't have enough red blood cells, and therefore you won't have enough circulation delivering both heat and oxygen to your fingers, toes, and nose. So I think the first thing is to figure out what we're going to do to correct that iron deficiency, whether it's by diet or other things. If there's a leak somewhere, plug in the leak. If you're losing it, some way of slowing down the losses so that you can build up again. You're going to have to probably work extra hard, extra effort to keep the fingers and toes and the face warm and covered, because you just don't have the same amount of circulation to those areas because you're low on iron.
And replace that iron. You got to replace it. If you have an external loss of blood, that means that the iron goes out, so it needs to be replaced. So you need to through your diet, as well as sometimes you need to take iron replacement as well. So.
Okay. And our last question is from a firefighter. He says, my feet got so cold today that I felt like needles or pins were sticking me. I am home now and I'm trying to warm my feet up. I've been here at least 40 minutes and I'm not warm yet. Should I be concerned?
I think that the important thing in terms of warming up is that when your feet get really cold, it's going to the process of heating it up is going to take a while. It's not a good thing to try to put it in real hot water or something of that nature to try to get it warm faster, because what happens is that, again, you get numbness and you're not really you really can't respond to the external things such as hot water the way that you should. I mean, when you put your foot in hot water, normally you're aware enough to know that I need to withdraw from the hot water, otherwise the hot water is going to cause damage. So I think the process here is number one, to take the foot out of the shoes, but cover them maybe with socks, and be in a warm situation, maybe near a heating source, and allow it to heat up. slowly but surely, and not to walk if there's numbness and that kind of thing. Don't walk around barefooted, because again, you might not feel something and that's on the floor, and you end up injuring and causing additional problems. So just allow the warming up to occur at a slow, steady pace, as opposed to trying to. To do it too quickly, because again, you're more likely to cause more problems by doing that.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, go right ahead, Doug.
Just to say is, you do want to keep a lookout for blistering and for sores. So if you're getting sores in the tips of your toes, that's a problem. You should seek medical attention. Same thing with blistering. There's been some kind of temperature injury to the skin itself, and that can cause a problem. So that's another reason why we don't want to really dip these things in boiling hot water to warm them up. We want to kind of warm them up in a gradual way, and keep our eyes open for these other things that could be going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And then if I can add one thing onto that, I know we gotta go. Oh, it can be mine until next Monday.
No, go ahead. No, come on.
And then person or sir, start doing your feet like this. I know these aren't feet, but you can do your feet like this when you scrunch your toes up, let them go. Scrunch your toes up, let them go. Try to do at least 10 to 15 per minute, and just keep on going. Like play a song, dance your feet, play a song, dance your feet, because that's going to help the blood flow to it, right? And then if you just still can't feel it, so the nerves, that tingling feeling, the nerves are like, what's going on? And they're trying to do their thing, right? And so they're activated, but also help the nerves by getting those muscles moving, getting the nerves more response from your brain to your toes, and make them active while you're doing your gradual heat ups. Don't put it, like they said, don't put it in hot water. You got to first do natural heat. And sometimes when my toes are cold like that, I'll scrunch them. And then I take if your hands are not freezing, I will put, hold them in my hand, scrunch them, hold them in my hand, man. Maybe give my little toe a little, then scrunch them and keep going. If you go prolong and you're not getting anything, yes, you definitely go. I would contact your doctor. If you don't have immediate contact to your doctor, this is one of those situations where it's worth it to go ahead and go in, call in 911 if you're going 30, 40 minutes and you're not feeling anything. The other thing I watch is my color, right? I have brown, a little chocolate. I would say, I don't know what color this is, but you see how the inside of my hand is darker than most people. Well, the inside of my hand will either turn like a purple or a lighter color when it's too cold, and then my tips get a little red, right? If I can't get my color back, that's my medical term. If you can't get your color back in 30 to 40 minutes, that's another sign. Whatever your natural color is, mine is brown on brown, milk chocolate on dark chocolate. Whatever your natural color is, if it don't come back in 30 minutes, 40 minutes in, go ahead and think about going in.
Outstanding. And more feet questions are coming in. So we need to have a podiatrist, and we need to talk menopause, because this one question came in 4 times from 4 different people that says, when we're sweating, when our feet are sweating with menopause, it smells horrible. So that's something we need to have a whole nother conversation about. And then hand sanitizer isn't a replacement for hand washing, and we agree, but it is to be used in case of emergency. You are absolutely right. Well, with that being said, and I know you guys hate when I say this, we have to talk about our until next Mondays, because it's time for us to go. But we want to remind you to stay safe. We want to remind you it's National Hand Washing Month, and to wash your hands to save your life. To be safe, wash your hands. Remember that if you are in an environment and you don't feel safe, keep a mask. I keep them still all the time. I wear them. And this mask will also help to keep you warm. You don't want to breathe in those cold air. You don't want to breathe it in. It just does something to your chest. So just keep a little mask and put it on. And if you're in a place and everybody's coughing or sneezing, just put your mask on. It's okay. Everybody, that's just the etiquette now. So just keep your mask. We also want to remind you to update all of your vaccines. If you have not, make sure that you do. And I know we talked last week about the new flu that was out here and what was going on with the new flu. And people had some questions about getting that flu vaccine since this new flu came out after the flu vaccine was already here. But as Dr. Hampton shared with us on last week, it may not be the remedy to the new flu, but it is definitely a prophylactic to help strengthen your body. So to make sure that you still get it. So we want to remind you to do that just as well. Well, with that being said, oh, I have an announcement. Don't forget that Congressman Davis does his holiday party every year, and we'll be having a holiday party at Malcolm X College, especially for our seniors. It will be a brunch, and this is on the 22nd at Malcolm X at brunch time. So you can join us at 1900 West on Jackson at Malcolm X. If you have any questions, please make sure that you give our office a call and ask for Ms. Jackie Greer, and Jackie will definitely give you details about our holiday festivities with a special attention for our seniors. We're going to have a great program with great entertainment and fun, and we're going to have some special guests there just as well. So make sure you join us at Malcolm X on the 22nd. With that being said, our until next Mondays. Well, Doug, what's your until next Monday?
Well, I think the heart of tonight's conversation is about prevention. It's much easier to prevent this problem by keeping your face, your hands, and your feet covered and warm than to have a problem and try and recover from it. So if you can, in your purse, in your backpack, hat, gloves, change your socks, and be inside as quickly as you can.
Exactly. Thank you so very much. Well, Dr. Miller, you're until next Monday.
Well, along the same line that Doug was talking is that, the weather is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be. And, we've actually been blessed with relatively mild winters compared to the way it used to be over the past few years. We've not got the real big snows. The cold weather has come, but it has been short-lived. And so we've had some kind of mild winters as opposed to the winters that we used to have. But the prediction that I'm hearing is that this is going to be a tougher winter. So make certain that you protect yourself, that you're aware of what the conditions are, and that you do all those things that are necessary to take care of you, take care of your hands, your feet, which are things that we've talked about. And just, it's just about taking care of yourself and trying to avoid harm's way. So when you don't have to be out there in the bad weather, don't be out there. Get yourself inside where it's warm, and let life go on. Enjoy the holidays and God bless you.
Dr. Miller, did you say that this is a regular old Chicago winter?
No, they say it might be an old Chicago. Well, I hope it's not like 67.
Oh, no. And Dr. Miller, one of your patients is watching, who is actually going to be one of our guests soon. He keeps saying that I keep throwing him to the curb, but I am not. And that's State Representative Omar Williams. He wanted me to make sure he's watching. And he says that that's my former doctor, Dr. James Miller. So State Rep, you will be one of our special guests on, and your doctor is here. Well, Dr. Green, Dr. 100, that is, what's your until next Monday?
There are a couple of things that came to me after we talked about the tolls. So to the person, if you're a firefighter, in the context of what you do, you probably got some steel toe boots. Just like water makes things colder and holds coal in, steel, when it gets cold, will hold coal in. I do have some friends that do work for like departments that wear or things where they wear steel toe boots. Usually they'll have I don't know the name of it. Maybe my colleagues can help. There's a certain material that they make socks and things out of that moisture wicking. Moisture wicking means it'll keep the water away on the outside of it. So you got to make sure you wear it on the right side. Don't wear it inside out. They make special socks that you can wear in that space. And then remember, just because you have a steel toe, it may protect against something smashing your toe, but that's no reason to just stay with your foot in the snow, because steel also will make gets cold and it'll transmit that cold to your feet. So until next Monday,
until next Monday, protect those toes. Well, Congressman, take us home.
Well, Dr. Miller, if you took care of Omar, you must be a good doctor because I knew him when he was a little boy. Now he's the state representative and the ward committeeman for the 27th Ward. Outstanding elected official. So you brought him up.
Got him up the right way.
Yeah, well, he's doing fine. Well, I mentioned people that I had met, and one person who called in, Henrietta Holmes. When I met her, she was laying down in the middle of Laramie, daring an 18-wheeler truck to run over her. They were blocking the street because they wanted a stop sign. Jane Byrne had just gotten elected mayor, and I had just gotten elected alderman of the 29th Ward. And so Jane Byrne called me and say, I understand some people out there blocking Laramie. Would you go down there and try to talk them out of it? I said, but they're not even in my ward. I said, that's... She said, but I think they might listen to you. And so I went down, talked to her. I said, well, we'll get a stop sign. It just take a little while. And I'd leave. In time I get in my car to leave, Henrietta would be back out there laying in the middle of the street. She was an organizer for the South Austin Coalition Community Council. Well, I guarantee you, if you drive by there right now, there is a stop sign. So the people make it happen. Thanks for a wonderful evening. Great discussion. Hey, things are moving right along. And anybody that want to have lunch Tuesday, come on out and join the seniors at the senior party. And we'll have a good time. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so very much. Good night, everyone. And good night, Miss Dorothy Murphy. I just saw your message. Good night. Next Monday.
All right.